You talk to Mike Huckabee about that desire within Israel, amongst its leaders anyway, for hegemony, for growing power within the Middle East. And he made an admission, of course, he's our ambassador to Israel. He made an admission that caused an international scandal. I mean, all these Middle Eastern countries responded very angry at what he said. Here's the clip.
God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis.
Yeah.
You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all. But I don't think that's what we're talking about here today.
I think it would be fine if the state of Israel took over all of Jordan.
They don't want to take it over.
You're explaining what Christian Zionism is and your theological beliefs. And you think you just said it would be fine with you if the state of Israel took all of Jordan, all of Syria, all of Lebanon.
They're not trying to take over Jordan. They're not trying to take over Syria. They're not trying to take over Iraq or anywhere else. But they do want to protect their people.
CNN pointing out that suggesting even nominal support for Israeli sovereignty over much of the Middle East is an unprecedented departure from American foreign policy. It also goes well beyond what much of Israel's far right is willing to call for publicly. Nearly every Middle Eastern country aside from Israel condemned Huckabee's comments in a joint statement on Sunday, led by the UAE, backed by Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, Qatar, and others, denounced his comments as dangerous and inflammatory. And even Muslim-majority countries outside the region like Turkey, Indonesia, and Pakistan also signed on to the denunciation. So did he just have a moment where he let his guard down? Because he was trying to be so careful in that whole interview, Tucker. What happened there?
It went on like this for 2.5 hours. He should be recalled. He doesn't represent the United States. This was a true humiliation to our country. This is our U.S. ambassador. I'm the son of an ambassador. I sort of know how this works. You're supposed to represent the president and the nation, and he's representing the country he's living in, which is a foreign nation. So it's a humiliation. It's also sad for him. That's not Christian theology. It's not even close to Christian theology. He's going to have to deal with that at some point. But as a practical matter, he couldn't explain the most obvious questions. I asked, he said, as people often do, does Israel have a right to this land? And I said, where does that right come from? And do other countries have similar rights? And he said two things. No other country has a right. No other people has a right to its land. Only the Israelis have a right to their land. That's it. The Irish don't have a right to Ireland. The English don't have a right to England. The French don't have a right to France. Only the Israelis have a right to Israel. And that right comes from God. And so I said, being familiar with the verse, that's from Genesis 15. And here's the promise that God made to Abram, before he became Abraham, to Abram in Genesis 15. And it's the land between the Nile and the Euphrates. And that's the whole Middle East. And that's the basis upon which you're making this claim. So you're saying Israel has a right to this land. This is his own framework, not mine. I'm a Christian, but I believe in also secular diplomacy. Like, these are the boundaries. This is what the treaty specifies. Like, I live in reality. I don't think that the blueprint for international relations is Genesis 15. I just don't think that. Call me a bad Christian. I don't think that. But he does. And so since he does, I said, okay, do they have the right to all of this? And he said, now famously, they can take it. He's saying that not simply as some sort of, sort of Christian preacher, He's saying that as the U.S. ambassador to what everyone calls our closest ally. Boy, you can't talk that way if you're a diplomat representing my country and my president. So I think it's an outrage, leaving aside all the other stuff. So rather than explain it, he just goes on this rant that I should be banned from the White House, that I'm a Nazi, I'm an anti-Semite, which I'm not. Everyone knows me, knows I'm not. I've said it 1,000 times. I'm totally opposed to anti-Semitism.
Ridiculous.
But he denounces me.
This only started when you got more
personally.
critical of Israel. They started calling you an anti-Semite over and over and over. And I do think it's a means of undermining your critique of Israeli policy.
Of course, and
their
getting
control
me killed.
over some
I
of our
get
politicians.
it.
They're trying to otherize you.
Yeah, but I'm not going to, I'm too old to put up with this. And I would say, just to be blunt, people are very intimidated by that. They're intimidated because they don't want their reputations destroyed. They also don't want to be killed. People sense a physical threat from that kind of language, and they should. Those are fighting words. Those are words meant to inspire violence. Israel is an incredibly violent country. It brags about its violence. Many books have been written about its assassination campaigns, which have been ongoing since the end of the Second World War, when they committed acts of terrorism against the British, when they blew up the King David Hotel. et cetera, et cetera. People know this is a very violent country, the most violent country on planet Earth. And when you criticize it, you can get physically hurt or you can get deplatformed, debanked, lose your job. These are not hollow threats. And because those threats are real.
Or they will pay random influencers all over the internet by the tweet to try to destroy your reputation and say that you're a neo-Nazi anti-Semite at every turn,
right.
Whether your name is Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly, for that matter. I mean,
but
I
why?
barely ever even talk about Israel, and I've experienced some of this backlash. It's ridiculous.
Well, you came out and said, I love Israel. I'm a friend of Israel. I couldn't be more pro-Jewish. I don't have an anti-Semitic bone in my body. And I, by the way, really like Israel for the 5th time. And they still called you a Nazi. So why? Why? And I even talked to some of the people doing it. I was like, Megyn Kelly, really? If Megyn Kelly's an anti-Semite, I mean, I don't even know where we are here. And but now we're seeing why. And the reason was to prevent criticism of policy goals. Israel wants, they're saying it out loud, they want to use the U.S. military and the U.S. Treasury to sweep aside the last remaining obstacle to regional hegemony in the Middle East, which is Iran. And they don't want to be criticized or to be asked, like, what's the plan here? Because they don't have an answer. And so they have taken offline preemptively critics by being so violent rhetorically and maybe physically that everyone's like, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to deal with this. The cost is too high.
That's exactly it.
That is exactly what they've done. And I've just decided at 56, I don't care. And I'm just going to do this because I believe that my motives are pure. I'm just an American. And I think it's important to say this. But there are a lot of other people who feel it who won't say it because it's like, I've got kids. I don't want to deal with this. That is true. That's a fact.
I know. I'm sure you get what, I mean, I'm only new to this being called an anti-Semite game, you know, on the top of being a racist and a transphobe and a pedophile lover and all the things that, you know, we've probably both been called over the years. Now the latest is anti-Semite, neo-Nazi. But I get texts all the time from people who are like, I agree with what you're saying. I just can't say it publicly. Right. I'm sure you get that times 100. Like people, they are scared. They're scared that this very loud lobby of online so-called influencers, whatever, I mean, the vicious online X crowd is going to come for them. And I understand it because, Tucker, you have a huge show. We have a big show too. It's going to be really hard to destroy you. And thankfully, I think it's going to be really hard to destroy us too. And so we're in a little bit more of a steady place than a lot of these people who agree with us, but are, you know, probably wisely not being that out loud about it because that could be their head in a basket next.
No, that's right. And they go after members of your family. They've certainly done that to me very aggressively. But really the cost here is not that. The cost here is hate. So you see some of these people, and I would say Levin is one of them, Loomer is another, who are not making an argument. They're trying to evoke hate in you. They are trying to make you hate them. Now, why would they do that? Because that's the nature of, this is supernatural, just saying this is a spiritual battle as well as a temporal battle. Mm-hmm. And the answer is really simple, because hate feeds on evil, or evil feeds on hate, rather. So to the extent that they can inspire hate in their opponents, they become stronger. It's just a fact. Mm-hmm. And the opposite, of course, are the people trying to inspire love and bring unity and stop division and make people understand each other and evoke empathy in others. Like, those are signs of God and goodness. But signs of evil are always the same. It's chaos and hate. And chaos and hate are the things that they're calling for. And it's very easy to get sucked into that if you spend your life on the phone reading attacks, not just on yourself, but on other. Reading attacks on you was actually driving me completely insane. I never read about myself, but I'd read these attacks. Megyn Kelly's a Nazi or whatever, and I'm like, I can't believe you're saying that. It's such a lie. It's irrational. Irrational, by the way, is another feature of their rhetoric. It doesn't make sense. That's designed to bewilder you, and again, to inspire hate in you. So I really think the trick for the rest of us is don't play along. I'm not going to be hateful. I don't hate you. I'm never going to hate you because I don't want to feed the evil through hate.